to Bob's Bulletins. Today's top story, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So this is my tribute to Notre Dame because, as you know, recently it caught fire, which is just saddening. It's heartbreaking. That huge loss of history that stood there forever is just so saddening. So I figured I'd review this just out of respect and kind of remembrance for it. I know some of it was saved, and they're going to rebuild it, but it's still a huge loss and heartbreaking. So Hunchback of Notre Dame is a Disney movie that was released in July of 1996. It has a runtime of about 90 minutes. So not too bad, but just to jump right in the story, to give you a hint, it's basically about a hunchback that lives in Notre Dame. He's the bell ringer, and he kind of, it's about his journey of trying to get accepted into society, basically. That's pretty much the whole gist of this movie, and he has a master who's raised him and everything called Frollo, who is kind of at war with the gypsies, who thinks they're kind of, destroying Paris and everything like that. So it's kind of the two arcs in this movie. Quasimodo, the hunchback, is trying to discover himself, and Frollo's trying to destroy the gypsies. So it is a pretty heartfelt story. It has a lot of emotions to it, because you just can empathize with Quasimodo. You kind of want to see him, come out of his shell and everything, and people respect him and understand him. And then you have Frollo, who's kind of the evil guy that just, is trying to wipe out all the gypsies who aren't really doing anything, but he considers them, witches. So it is really good throughout the story. I would say it's not the best story I've ever seen. It's not one to go home and write home about or anything like that. It's kind of a stereotypical, good, bad guy kind of story. And it is predictable throughout, but it is, it just makes you think that, maybe you're judging someone like that or something like that. Not to that extent of, a hunchback, but, we've all been there, I guess. So it's kind of an eye-opening story. It's definitely a lesson in it to not necessarily judge a book by its cover, that it might be a bad cover, but it could be, a good book. So at that point, it does do a good job of that. The characters kind of meld together. I think the story does jump some. It's not necessarily bad jumps, but they're taking place all in this one area. It's just Notre Dame. They might go a little bit out into the city, but it's just Notre Dame, which, obviously that's the point of the movie. But it's kind of, I guess, so quick, and there's so many jumps. I would like personally to see kind of the in-between story, what happens, and it kind of jumps from him being a baby to him being an adult, and maybe just a short montage of, him as a kid, or how did he become the bell ringer and stuff like that. So that would be really interesting. I will say this movie does a good job of making Frollo bad from right off. As soon as the story starts, he's a bad guy. So I kind of like that aspect of it. Sometimes you can't really tell the villain until about halfway, but this one, right off the bat that he's bad. So they did a good job of that. So to jump into the animation, this is standard Disney animation of that time period, kind of that 2D animation, hand-drawn. It's really nice. I like it a lot. I like the thought of all the hard hours and the skill that it took to make it, because you can just see everything's hand-drawn. Some of the times when they're showing the city, you can tell. I do like how they kind of blurred the buildings and then made Notre Dame really crisp and beautiful, so your eyes just automatically drawn to it. That's a really clever technique to do. The characters themselves, Quasimodo, obviously he's a hunchback, so they want to kind of make him a monster, but they didn't overdo it. It was very subtle. You could tell he was different, and even his walk style was a little different than a regular character, but it was very subtle and it wasn't overdone. So it really helped you connect with that character more, and any other character too, because everyone else also was like that. All the characters were really crisply drawn, and even Frollo kind of had this evil face and this evil nose and everything, so it was really good. And then some of the scenes with fire and everything were just amazing. They were really beautiful and eye-catching, and some of the scenes of horror, horrifying scenes, it really made you feel like it was in peril or something like this. there was a couple other scenes that were just eye candy, pretty much, like seeing the huge windows in Notre Dame. The stained glass windows are just beautiful. They did a good job of that. Not just, the drawing of it, but the coloring of it too. The colors really popped and everything like that. And the characters of the gargoyles, when they'd switch back and forth from being alive to just being a gargoyle, they really did a good job of turning them to a cartoony, but then making them go back real and kind of blending in. It was a very good job of doing that. So the animation in this one, it's a Disney movie. It's on point. I really like all the earlier Disney movies with that 2D hand-drawn animation. It's one of my favorite animation styles. So I love it even better than 3D. So it was very good in this movie. The voice acting was good as well. So Tony Jay did Frollo. He had this like evil voice and it really powerful and everything like that. Tom Hulce was Quasimodo and Demi Moore was Esmeralda. So they both did a good job as well. It's nothing to write home about. They did put their emotions into the characters. Their voices were nice. There's a lot of musicals in this, Disney and everything, and anytime there was singing or anything like that, it's hot as crap in here, but anytime there was singing or anything like that, they did a very good job. And there was a lot of musical numbers. Sometimes, Disney, I think, kind of likes just to throw them out of the blue for no reason at all, but they were catchy. They're not the best Disney musical numbers, like not when you're just going to come out, snapping your fingers singing too, but they were still really good and enjoyable, musical numbers. So overall, I think this movie would be a rent on Redbox. I do think it was really good, but I think it's a kind of a niche movie. So some people really love it. Me personally, I enjoyed it. I would see it as watching one time, but I know some people probably really enjoy this movie, especially if you're really interested, in Notre Dame and stuff like that. So, and you might like the music a little bit better than I do. So it's definitely rent on Redbox. You might love it and you might not. So, like I said before, this is my tribute to Notre Dame burning, which is so sad. I know it will never be the same, but at least it'll stand maybe for another, however long it was built. I think it was like 1149, something like that. So, however long it was built, it would be awesome to see it again. So, anyway, if you like this video, leave a comment down below and tell me what you'd like to see next. Make sure you hit that like button if you did enjoy it. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe and ring that little bell so you don't miss the next issue of Bob's Bulletins. Until next time, Bob out.